First of all, believe in yourself. I think, don't underestimate how great you are. Have that confidence when you put in your application. I think that comes through in your application as well when people read it. If you truly believe in yourself, if you don't believe in yourself to start with, how can others believe in you?
If you didn't get the award in the first trial, it's just normal. People usually take 3 or 4 attempts to finally get the scholarship. And for me, it was my 7th. So don't be afraid to try.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Mong Global Talks, brought to you by Indonesia Mong Global. I'm Karina, Director of PR and Partnership at Indonesia Mong Global, and I will be your host for today's episode. Now, yes, it has been a while since we last welcomed you to one of our podcasts, but we hope to see you more again soon in future episodes. And there's actually a very special reason as to why we are gathered here today, and that is to talk about women empowerment through the education sector. It might be late March already by the time we're filming this podcast, but I would still like to say happy belated International Women's Day to all the young and also powerful women out there. It's never too late to celebrate women, and it's also partly why we've partnered with the British Council Indonesia today to give you more information about a very prestigious scholarship opportunity for women seeking to pursue STEM majors in the UK. Now, to those of you who are new to our community, if you may have heard, our organization, Indonesia Mong Global, is a non-profit organization aiming to inform and inspire prospective students to pursue higher education on a global scale. Established in 2012, Indonesia Mong Global has a vision of becoming a platform to inform, inspire, and ultimately empower fellow scholars wishing to pursue higher education, especially those seeking to pursue them abroad. Now, since its establishment, we are very proud to say that our organization has mentored over 700 aspiring students, held more than 15 didactic events per year, and have also gained nearly 50,000 community members and social media followers. Over the years, our success has also obviously been attributed thanks to our wonderful partnerships with a lot of key stakeholders in the education sector, including government bodies, international development agencies, universities, and scholarship providers, and such as in the case of today, the British Council Indonesia. Now, as I mentioned before, we've partnered with the British Council Indonesia to invite driven female changemakers to seize an amazing scholarship opportunity, and that is the Women in STEM Scholarships by the British Council and ASEAN UK SAGE. Women in STEM scholarships offer women researchers the chance to continue their studies in STEM with a 1-year fully funded scholarship to complete a master's degree at a UK university. In Indonesia so far, 11 master's students and 1 fellowship student have been awarded one of these scholarships since it's the first cohort in 2021-2022. Entering its 4th year now, the British Council's Women in STEM Scholarships is now launched alongside the ASEAN UK SAGE Women in STEM Scholarships, funded by the UK's FCDO, expanding the opportunity for more women to study a master's degree in STEM subjects at UK universities, where this year there are 3 universities that will be providing the scholarship. With that said, let's meet our 2 guests for today. We have, of course, the country head of the British Council Indonesia, Mr. Samar Shah, and previous Women in STEM Scholarships awardee from 2022 to 2023, Ms. Mashita Fadri. Thank you so much for joining us for today. How are you doing?
Great.
Really good, yeah.
That's great to hear. Now, I'm sure our audience is very excited to hear more about the Women in STEM Scholarships, but before we get there, could you please tell us a little about yourselves, your backgrounds, and maybe, especially for you, Mashita, your educational background, maybe starting with you, Summer.
Okay, so my name is Samar Shah, and I am the British Council's Country Director for Indonesia and Director for Southeast Asia. So this is actually my 2nd time to serve in this wonderful country, because I was the Deputy Director of the British Council here in Indonesia between 2013 and 16. I enjoyed it so much that I decided to come back 2 years ago. And so I head up the British Council across Indonesia and Southeast Asia, and we are here to build connections, trust, and understanding between the people of Indonesia and people in the UK through our cultural engagement programs such as education, arts and culture, and English language. And I'm so pleased that last year we actually celebrated our 75th anniversary here in Indonesia, demonstrating our long-term commitment to building connections between our two countries.
Now, I'm sure everyone's very excited to have you back. What was it about Indonesia that made you come back? And since you've mentioned that the British Council has recently celebrated its 75th anniversary, what are you looking forward to this new era of partnership?
I think having served here back in 2013, 10 years later, Indonesia is in a different place. I definitely sense a lot of optimism, a lot of excitement, a lot of confidence as well. So once again, congratulations on the very successful G20 Indonesia has hosted and the ASEAN chairmanship last year. I think Indonesia has really emerged on the world stage as a country that everybody wants to engage with. And I think that itself is what attracted me to come back. But of course, the Indonesian people, probably some of the best people I've come across in life, genuinely nice, happy, and very welcoming. And that's another main reason why I wanted to come back. And also just the pure energy, creativity, and innovation that I have seen in Indonesia makes me want to do more. And so that is why, as the UK's International Cultural Relations Organization, Indonesia is a super priority market for us because we see so much potential to build on the existing links between Indonesia and the UK through education, through arts and culture, through football, through music, through food, and so that we could work together, share our knowledge with each other, learn from each other, and come up with solutions that will address the global challenges we face today, including the scholarships like we will talk about today, how we can help Indonesia develop its human capital so that you're ready for the social and economic growth this country will see in the coming years.
We definitely look forward to all the amazing achievements that will happen this year and also in this new era of partnerships. Now, this podcast would not be complete without our next guest, Mashita Fadri, who is a Women in STEM awardee for 2022 and 2023. Now, Mashita, could you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you pursued for a master's degree as well?
Okay, so my background was in environmental health, but then during my journey my career journey, I figured out that I would like to learn about public health as a whole. So that's why I'm pursuing a master's degree in the UK, and I did my master in Liverpool John Moore University, that we can abbreviate to LJMU from now on. And it emphasizes how we can create improvement in low resource settings, such as in Indonesia. And then it was really great because there are a lot of people coming from around the world and learning from different perspectives. It just enriched me with a lot of knowledge during my time in the UK.
What was it about the UK that made you decide to apply in the first place? Was it the culture, or was it purely the academic opportunities?
Mostly, most of that. So the quality of the education in the UK is renowned in the world, and then they have very high standard regarding their education. And to support their student, many of universities in the UK provide supports, including helping you with your essay and then one-on-one meeting if that's necessary. And that's really helped me to gain my mark. And I would be happy to tell you that I got like more than 70% on my grade. So that would mark as a...
That's good.
Yeah. I think that's like the best grade in the UK, because it's different from Indonesia, because we usually have 0 to 100 or GPA to 4, and that's already good, they say.
If I'm not mistaken, the UK uses an honor system.
Yes.
That might be confusing to anyone trying to apply, but don't worry, there's definitely guidelines online about what grades that is exactly. Now, you were a previous Women in STEM scholar, but for those of you who might not know what it is yet, maybe we can go back to Summer and ask you, what is it exactly? What is the Women in STEM scholarships, and how was it first established?
So the British Council Women in STEM scholarships are dedicated scholarships to support women in need to study STEM subjects at master's level in the UK. So it's a full scholarship that will cover your tuition fee, your flights, and other associated costs such as visa and even English tests such as IELTS that is required. So I think it's an amazing opportunity. How did it come about? Well, this is where we saw a gap that we need to fill. So based on the data we have seen from UNESCO, around the world, only 30% of researchers are women. And amongst the female students, only 30% of them would choose to study STEM subjects. So that's where we saw the need to take action. And that's why we launched Women STEM Scholarships 4 years ago at the British Council, with the idea to really help those in need and also to nurture and empower and enable those women who are passionate about STEM, about research in STEM fields, like Mashita, to get the opportunity to progress with their study, but also to gain that rich cultural exposure in the UK so that they could come back to make a positive contribution to their subject, to their sector, but also to the whole society, and inspiring many more women to follow in their footsteps and shatter those stereotypes about what women can or cannot do, and really create role models so that millions of young girls out there will look up and think, yes, I want to be a researcher and I can. There are opportunities like the British Council Women's Scholarships that will help me to become that researcher.
Now, with regards to the courses itself and the university's list, is it different every year? And how can prospective students get to know what courses are for this year or the next year and so on?
Sure. So yes, they do vary every year. The reason being we want to work with a range of universities in the UK and offer that rich diversity from the UK's higher education. So this year, for the two scholarship opportunities, we're working with University of Bath and Imperial College London. So the first one is for the British Council Women STEM Scholarships, and the second one is for the ASEAN UK SAGE Women STEM Scholarships, also administered by the British Council. So I would encourage any interested candidates to check online. If you Google British Council's Women STEM Scholarships, you'll see relevant information, and you'll also find relevant information from these two universities, including the criteria, the deadline, so University of Bath and Imperial College London. But on an ongoing basis, in order to get the latest updates on opportunities like this, I would encourage everybody to follow the British Council Indonesia on Facebook, on X, and on Instagram, so that you don't miss out on fantastic opportunities like this.
You mentioned something very important, I think, and it was the data from UNESCO, right? We have seen, obviously, there's very few female researchers around the world, much less Indonesia, I believe, where higher education itself is still quite a challenge that needs to be addressed. And so why, and this is also a question for you, Mashita, but in your personal opinion, why is it important to advocate for gender equity in the education sector?
On an individual level, so there is obviously that gap we need to fulfill, but it is more important, I think, for the individual to also create role models for many young women and girls out there. So I think this is one thing that we need to change the mentality about women's role in society and women's role in the academic fields. And I think the other thing is that we need to bring more diversity into the research fields, especially in STEM, because again, researchers have proven that by having different perspectives, different approaches, the research results will be more beneficial from an economic and scientific point of view. So by having more women doing STEM subjects researchers, we can enrich and increase that capability and capacity within these subjects. And finally, it's also about building connections, because these scholars, and I'm sure Mashita has had that experience, going to the UK will allow them to build connections with students, researchers, and scholars from around the world. And those connections will stay enabling them to continue the research collaboration afterwards on an international basis, sharing the Indonesian story and findings, but also gaining from others' research as well. And that, I think, is also important to support the human capital development and scientific advance that Indonesia seeks as it continues to develop.
Mashita, do you have anything to add as well?
Mr. Summer actually answered quite complex to this answer, but maybe what I would like to add is many women out there is just afraid to try, and they probably should know, just like what you mentioned before, don't know that there is an opportunity like this, and it's actually something that people should look forward. I mean, having opportunity like this, it can enhance their skill and then their knowledge, and then adding more women also enrich the research. Mr. Summer actually answered the question very complex and complete way. So yeah.
So you've had a very extensive experience, but also travels abroad as well, and experiences abroad. Now, during your travels and working in this education sector, have you had any encounters with STEM female scholars that were particularly memorable and reminded you that it's very important to advocate for gender equity in this sector?
Absolutely. Even though, as I said earlier, the data paints a dark picture that we need more female researchers in STEM subjects, I have come across a number of them, including one here in Indonesia. So that is Professor Durikorita, who's the current head of BMKG in Indonesia, so the Indonesia Met Office. She is an inspiration. So she's also one of our UK alumni. I think she did her study at Leeds in the UK. So what is amazing that not only has she used that experience to advance her own research, but also what she has done in terms of leadership, in terms of inspiring many others to follow in her footsteps, in terms of having a vision for BMKG, wanting to send her staff abroad, including to the UK, so that they could increase the capability and capacity of BMKG when it comes to research, and also develop the individuals working for BMKG so that there is a healthy pipeline of talents for the future years, and also act as an incentive for the staff working at BMKG when they have offices across Indonesia in some very remote areas where they could think that there is an opportunity for them to study abroad in the UK, benefiting from the world-class education in the UK office. So last year, we have worked very closely, the British Council and BMKG, and we enabled 23 BMKG staff to go to the UK to study masters and PhD in the relevant fields. And that itself felt really good because we are actually helping them to fulfill their individual dreams, but also help BMKG as a whole, as an institution, but also that will bring benefits to Indonesia as a whole. And I personally have visited BMKG several times and have seen Professor Durikorita in action. And I could see how the rest of her staff look up to her, especially the female staff, seeing her as a beacon, as a leader, as an ambassador, as a change maker, who are, creating a vision for the future, who are taking the rest of her team with her. And that's exactly what we hope that many of our women STEM scholars will become in the future, so that they will have a significant impact in their industry, in their institution, in their fields, and also in the whole society.
I love that you said whole Indonesia, because I think that's a key word here. As we know, Indonesia is decentralized. It's a very big archipelago as well. And so there's still a lot of disparity between the quality education and access to information regarding education abroad, for example, to other provinces. And since you have had, again, experiences in other countries, how do you think can the women in STEM scholarships benefit Indonesian women in particular?
Well, I think on an individual level, to address that disparity between women, well, between genders and also between different locations, I think the scholarship will definitely help. And especially one of the criteria of the scholarship is to help those in need. So not those who already can afford or have other opportunities. We really want to help those, for socioeconomic reason or whatever reason, can't afford to go to study a master's degree in the UK. So I think that itself will create perhaps more opportunities for people across Indonesia, especially in areas where they would not have had the same opportunities. I think secondly, on an institutional level, this is really important for Indonesia to create more connections, because as I have seen so far, lots of these connections will grow into sustainable and long-term partnerships. So often when we have a scholar coming back, then the organization or the institution they work for will embark on the partnership with the institution, the university they went to. So I think that's one thing we want to encourage as well. So that's something that will start with an individual will then become beneficial for the whole institution, the universities, the organizations between Indonesia and the UK. And I think thirdly, in particular, it is about telling that Indonesian story to the rest of the world, because I think this is such a large country and such an important country, but unfortunately still not fully understood by everyone else in the rest of the world. So I think by having outstanding Indonesian women like Mashita doing research, studying STEM subjects in the UK, connecting, interacting with researchers from all over the world, that also helps to put Indonesia on the map, also raise awareness about the amazing Indonesian women who are full of passion, full of creativity, full of ideas, so that there will be more countries, including the UK, looking to Indonesia for collaboration in research, in women empowerment, in many other things. So I think that's how we see, hopefully, the Women's STEM scholarships by the British Council will play a role, particularly for Indonesian women and Indonesia as a whole.
So, Mashita, coming back to you, how does studying STEM in the UK differ from other countries?
From other countries, probably the material they provide it's complex, and then they always provide feedback. I mean, whenever you submit your assignment, they will always provide feedback, which is important to your improvement during the master degree. And then if the quality as well and the facilities is really complete as well. They many of the UK university subscribe to journals that will help you with the assignment, which I think is can be copied in Indonesia university as well.
What was the most insightful thing that you learned throughout your master's journey in Liverpool?
Okay, so after having discussion with my colleagues in the UK, I figured out that public health is not an issue just in low resource setting, but it's an issue in the whole world. And then that's when public health is coming to solve the issue, because it's an art. And I think the implementation is quite challenging in here as well. So learning from many countries that successfully handle a disease or pandemic can be useful, I think. Yeah.
And thankfully we have a lot of mentors, as you have said as well, Summer, here that we can look up to, and hopefully through the Women in STEM scholarships we can have more of those mentors and come back and have more partnerships as well. Now, we're going to move on about practical tips and frequently asked questions, because recently we actually held a webinar about the Women in STEM scholarships. The enthusiasm from the audience was just incredible, and they had a lot of questions regarding, practical aspects of applying for the Women in STEM scholarships, but also maybe tips and advice for those seeking to expand their career. Now, Mashita, what was your experience like applying for the Women in STEM? Were there any documents that you had trouble with, for example, or what was the challenges?
Not really. So when I was applying to Women in STEM scholarship, I got help. She helped me most of the time. But then when applying to the British Council, it was really straightforward. The question is not complicated. I mean, and the amount of question is not that much. So it really helped applicants to hassle-free, and the application process was really efficient.
So did you apply to just the one university?
No, this is my 7th trial. So after 6 time fail, I got it on my 2nd trial in Women in STEM. So yeah.
But I think that's actually the kind of grit that we're looking for as well, right, Summer? How was there any interview for the Women in STEM scholarships or even the university application?
During my time, there's no interview, but I think they changed no. Oh, okay.
Okay, I think a lot of UK universities are very straightforward. But maybe one thing that you might want to look into is references, if I'm not mistaken. Did you have to have any references? And who did you choose?
I got 2 references, one from my professor who helped me with my undergraduate thesis, and then the second one was from my supervisor in my during my research. At that time, it was Dr. Nurul. Yeah.
While we have Summer here, I actually want to ask, a lot of our attendees at the webinar asked, do they have to have career or work experience before applying for the Women in STEM scholarships? And with regards to references, for example, do you have any tips as well on selecting the right references to prove that you have the potential to be a wonderful scholar?
So I think I'll answer the first question about work experience. Not necessary. So we have made a decision to exclude that from the criteria so that we can enable more people to apply and widen the talent pool. Because while it is valuable to have such work experience, we appreciate that not everybody has had the opportunity for such exposure. So that's why, alternatively, you can demonstrate if you have a strong interest in the research that you plan to do, and you have a clear plan on how you will use that research to good use, for your sector, for the industry, for your organization, then that counts as well. So that will hopefully, make it a bit easier for people who have not yet had that work experience to apply for the Women in STEM scholarships. The second question, I think, about the reference. Again, we are partnering with the university, so they would make the selection, and then we have given them the full power to make that selection based on academic merit. But in general terms, I would suggest that, your referees should be people who know you well, so they can really talk about your strengths, your vision, your plan for the future, so that it comes across as authentic and genuine, and really, demonstrate your capability, so that then the people making the decision will be able to, see substance from that reference letter, not just something that is very generic. So that would be my advice to those people seeking references.
Mashita, do you have anything to add? How did you, end up selecting your references at the time?
I think, just like Mr. Summer mentioned before, it should be someone that really knows you well. And then I know for people who graduated a long time ago, for me, I graduated from my bachelor in 2019. So it took like 3 or 4 years after my graduation. And then at that time, my professor actually has resigned because he's a professor, and if he's not working in the university, don't worry to try to contact him, because he would be happy to provide you one. Yeah, I think that's it.
But the important thing is that your professor remembered you, right? I think there's actually, Indonesia Mong Global has a very intensive mentorship program for those applying for bachelor's, master's, and also PhD programs. And there's a misconception with regards to the references. Some UK universities will ask about specific skill sets and how you can prove this either through your CV or through the references. And it would be very good to have someone who knows you very well. And so moving on to the next subject, and that is English proficiency. A lot of our attendees at the webinar as well are very worried about the IELTS test. Do you have any tips on how to ace this test?
Yeah, I mean, well, first message is don't be afraid, because I think many of the Indonesians I've had the chance to speak to, including both of you, speak perfect English. So what are you afraid of? I think be confident to start with. Secondly is that I think the advice I often give to people is that it's not just about passing the test, to getting the score you need to apply. It is really about making sure you have the English proficiency, because that is going to be so critical for you to have a pleasant experience in the UK studying and living. You do not want the language to become a barrier when you arrive in the UK, that you can't really, follow what the professors are teaching. You can't really interact with students from other countries or, local Brits. And that is going to hinder your experience. So I would really encourage people, try to improve their English proficiency before they go. And then, of course, that will enable you to get the score you need. And then really use every opportunity to focus on the 4 skills. So reading, listening, writing, and speaking. And there are many opportunities nowadays, so on social media, online, in real life. So I think utilize those opportunities, the films, the TV series, the news, there's so much you can follow and learn. And also there are free resources out there, so including from the British Council. So we have a website called Learn English British Council. If people search for that, you will be taken to our website with free resources and practical tests that will help people to then really improve these skills. And also when it comes to IELTS itself, so at the British Council Teaching Centre, located at the Pacific Place, we do offer IELTS preparation course. And also, if you sign up to take IELTS with the British Council, there is a chance people could take a familiarization test so that they understand how it feels like. So they are prepared for the type of questions, the format, the timing that they are given, so that they go into the test being prepared instead of just trying it again and again. So I think, that's what I would advise. But then at the end of the day, as I said earlier, really use every opportunity to improve your English, to make sure that you have what it takes so that you can have the best experience when you arrive in the UK.
I think it's very important to note about the familiarization test as well, because maybe your English is perfect, but then you come into the test and you don't know how to work a computer, because the format is quite unique, I think. And so, Mashita, what was the experience taking the test like for you? And do you have any tips as well to those who's going to take the test?
So for me, understanding the format is really important. And then people usually have targets, right? It's either 7 or 7.5. I think that's enough.
What was your target at the time?
8.
What did you get?
I got 7.
Oh, very good.
So that's okay. And understanding the pen is also helpful. And then just like what Mr. Summer said again, there are plenty of free resources out there. And I actually write a certain blog. I wrote a blog about my IELTS tip to get 7 pen on your IELTS score. And I provided the link to many free resources where you can get input for your writing, because many of my friends are afraid with that particular test, with the writing, with the writing. And then for the speaking, just try to speak as much, or just get feedback from people, because it helps. And I got the mock test like twice with my friends, and then still I was pretty nervous during the test. So if you have like plenty of time, just arrange the time to get scheduled for the speaking, because that is something that you want to try with other people, not just by yourself. And there's like a free mock-up test with with the format and the current with the newest questions.
If I'm not mistaken, and Summer, you can correct me with if I'm wrong about this, the speaking test is a separate section, right? Because you get to interact with someone who is potentially a native English speaker as well. Now, for Mashita, I know that there are some institutions that require specific, scores for specific parts of the test. For example, if you're conducting research, you might need to be very good, or you might need to excel at the writing part or the reading part even. Was there any such requirements for you when you applied?
No, not really. It was general, like 6.5, the whole score, yeah.
Okay, so again, make sure that you check with the university websites to see if there are specific score requirements for specific parts of the test. Now, Mashita, we haven't really talked about how your experience in the UK like. Could you tell us a little bit more about maybe your day-to-day life? What was it like? Also the social life and academic life that you had there.
Okay, so when I was in UK, I took the opportunity to have a part-time there. So I have it's not just about the job, but I would like to create connection with people. And then when I was in my master's degree, I worked in University of Liverpool. So it would benefits me a lot because I have a lot of people a lot of friends in University of Liverpool, and LJMU. It's pretty different. But then when Indonesian people gather around, I feel like I know a lot of people, and that brings a familiarity when you miss Indonesia.
So it's a very tight community.
Yeah. There's plenty of people.
Indonesians are like that everywhere. But that's a good thing, actually. You feel like home everywhere.
Yeah.
But what did you work as in Liverpool?
I work as a finance assistant in a research for chemical research there. So yeah.
Oh, I see. Did you have any career counseling available there for you, or did you find any mentor figure while you were studying there?
I have friends who are supportive, although they got different scholarship, but they are willing to help with my motivation letter and the application and so on.
Do you have any last advice for scholarship applicants or women seeking to thrive in the STEM industry? Maybe starting from you, Mashita.
Maybe don't afraid to try. I mean, if you didn't get the award in the first trial, it's just normal. People usually take 3 or 4 attempts to finally get the scholarship. And for me, it was my 7th. So don't be afraid to try. And then just, I think every scholarship has their own target and then their goal. So try to understand that as well. It is helpful. So for women in STEM, because it's mainly focused in empowering women, try to emphasize that as well in your application.
Oh, but does it mean that you have to be, very active on social media and advocating? No?
Not necessarily. I would say, echoing what Mashita has mentioned. So I would say, well, first of all, believe in yourself. I think, don't underestimate how great you are. Have that confidence when you put in your application. I think that comes through in your application as well when people read it. If you truly believe in yourself, if you don't believe in yourself to start with, how can others believe in you? So I think that's the first thing. The second thing is really have a clear plan for the future, because that's what we're looking for. Given everything we have talked about, we want these scholars to become inspirations to others in the future, to become role models. So I think it's important for potential applicants to have a plan for the future, a clear pathway, how they're going to use the knowledge and experience they've gained from the UK and then do greater things in their industry to society. And I think the third thing is that it is an application process, so make sure you read the criteria and then you try to respond to everything that we ask for. That's important. You need to answer the question in the test, otherwise it's very difficult for the judges to find the answers for you. And I think the final thing to say, going back to the language requirement, yes, improve your English and make sure you have the English language proficiency. And I think the final thing is that enjoy the process. Exactly as Mashita said, if you don't succeed the first time, try it again and again and again until you succeed. I think you will always learn from the process if you don't succeed, and then try to reflect on your learning, not giving up, and I'm sure you will succeed eventually.
Thank you so much for listening to Mong Global Talks. I hope you learned a lot from our guests, Summer Shah and Mashita Fadri. Now, for more information about the Women in STEM scholarships, please be sure to check out the British Council Indonesia's websites, and be sure to note the deadlines because it is fast approaching. Please also read the terms carefully and feel free to consult with university representatives if you have any questions. And for more information on available universities and scholarships as well, or if you're interested to seek mentorship for your university and scholarship applications, including for the Women in STEM scholarships, don't forget to stay tuned to Indonesia Mong Global social media. That's at Indonesia Mong Global on Instagram and www.indonesiamonglobal.com. This year, we are hosting several batches of mentorship programs for different levels. So if you want to apply, be sure to check it out because I think one of the registrations is opening very soon.